This aircraft, carrying 242 passengers, took off from Ahmedabad at 1:36 p.m., heading towards London Gateway. For around 2 minutes, the airplane accelerated on the runway. Once it reached a speed of 300 km per hour, the aircraft lifted off. It had just taken off and reached an altitude of only 191 meters when the pilot urgently contacted air traffic control to report an emergency. The plane wasn't lifting properly. Shortly after, the connection was lost. The aircraft began descending slowly and eventually crashed into a hostel building, causing a massive explosion. Out of the 242 passengers, 241 tragically lost their lives. Civilian casualties were also reported. At the time of this recording, the official death count hadn't been confirmed, but the blast was immensely powerful. The aircraft was a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, a long-haul plane fully loaded with fuel for the journey from Ahmedabad to London. Its fuel tank capacity is approximately 1,226,000 liters. Fuel is typically stored in the aircraft's wings, where the engines are also mounted. Since the aircraft had only been flying for 2 minutes, it had barely consumed any fuel. When it crashed, the leftover fuel caught fire, causing a massive explosion. As of now, the exact cause of the crash has not been confirmed. But when the plane began descending, eyewitnesses observed that there were no flames coming from the engines, which seemed to be functioning properly. Normally, if an engine fails, you'll see flames shooting backward from the engines, a detail we'll explore later. Let's first try to understand the possible reasons behind the crash. At rest on the runway, the plane's wings have flaps on the back and slats at the front, which adjust to help the aircraft take off and land. When the engines start, they pull air in from the front and push it out the back at high speed, creating forward thrust to move the aircraft. However, if the flaps and slats are not properly activated, the plane will move forward but won't generate lift and won't take off. When the pilot adjusts the flaps and slats correctly, the plane begins to lift, all thanks to their special aerofoil design. As air flows over the wing's curved surface, increasing the angle of attack increases air pressure below the wing and decreases it above the wing. Since air moves from high to low pressure, this creates an upward force known as lift. Experts believe that in this case, if a technical issue occurred with the flaps or slats post-takeoff, they may have failed to maintain lift, causing the aircraft to descend. But the Boeing 787 is a highly trusted aircraft, and such failures are rare. Another possible cause is the extreme heat. As you may know, regions like Rajasthan and Gujarat are currently experiencing very high temperatures. In hot weather, air density decreases, which means air particles are farther apart. Since this was a long-haul flight, the aircraft was heavily loaded. In hot, low-density air, even if the plane manages to take off, it may not generate enough lift to stay airborne. In contrast, in cold weather, air particles are closer together, which helps the aircraft lift easily, just like 100 people lifting a heavy rock together versus only 2. High-density air exerts more upward force on the wings. In hot conditions, fewer air particles strike the wings, reducing lift. Even at full engine thrust, the plane may fail to maintain altitude due to the combination of high temperature and heavy weight. That's why runways in hot countries like India, Dubai, or Mexico are often longer to allow aircraft enough distance to take off even in low-density air. Also, once a plane takes off, if an engine failure occurs, the pilot has very limited options. The plane can't be quickly turned back to land. One other possible cause is a bird strike, though less likely. But how can a bird bring down such a large aircraft? At the front of the engine are compressors, and at the rear are turbines. The compressor pulls in and compresses air, which is then mixed with fuel in the combustion chamber and ignited to generate high-pressure gases that provide thrust. If a bird gets sucked into the front compressor, it can block airflow, preventing air from reaching the combustion chamber. Fuel will still be sprayed but without enough oxygen, which can lead to incomplete combustion, rising temperatures, or even engine fire once unburned fuel meets oxygen. This condition is known as a compressor stall. A compressor stall disrupts engine operation and can lead to flames shooting out from the engine, a common sign of bird ingestion. Finally, remember, an airplane is an extremely complex piece of engineering, and failure in any component can lead to disaster. We'll know more only once the black box, flight data recorder, is recovered and analyzed. The black box records every technical detail and pilot action during the flight. We hope this video helped you understand the possible reasons behind this tragic crash. As soon as we get confirmed details, we'll try to make a follow-up video. Some footage from the crash is truly disturbing, revealing the scale of the tragedy. We only pray for strength and peace for the victims' families.